All right, buddy. How's it going?
What's up, Andrew? Good morning.
Good morning. So, what we're going to do today, with this Stegelmann Performance Project, I'm going to do some athlete highlights. So, the idea is I'm going to bring on some of my athletes. We're just going to talk through, discuss some different things that are going on in their lives, talk about training, talk about kind of whatever you want to talk about. So, this is Anthony Zamora. Do you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everybody, or whenever you're going to watch this. My name is Anthony. I am 31 years old from East Tennessee. I live in Salt Lake City, and I love lifting weights.
Big,
My
big lifting
uh,
guy.
my background is in nutrition, culinary, and I have an awesome job working for the Utah Jazz, helping out, doing everything performance nutrition related, culinary, and hospitality.
Awesome. Yeah, Anthony has like probably one of the most interesting jobs of any of the athletes that I work with. So that's something I definitely want to get into. But let's go ahead and start with kind of what got you to where you are today. So if you kind of start with your journey through school and basically how you got into like culinary arts and how your professional track led you to where you are today.
Yeah, bro. The path coming out of high school, I really thought I wanted to be a nurse. I had this vision when I was like 16, 17 of going to pick up my kid from soccer practice in my scrubs and Range Rover supercharged and got into school. I was in nursing for 3 years, and my third year, I made two C's in the same semester and was kicked out of the program. Always was into food and cooking and like cool recipes and macros, and just had this interest around you know eating and performance. So I was able to
Oh no. Oh no. We lost him. He's
check
back. He's back.
check.
What happened?
I don't know. Wi-Fi is good and everything.
Yeah, that was weird. So, all right. So you're saying you're in college, you're kind of pursuing the nursing thing. That didn't work out. You said you've been into nutrition and stuff like that. So where did it kind of go from there?
Yep. So my best friend, who actually taught me how to lift properly, like he saw me struggling in the gym, is actually a guy named Greg Greco. And
Greg, our boy.
he had walked on to the football team that next year. And I saw him coming home with these things like protein cherry juice and these wheat bread peanut butter sandwiches and cups of fruit and apples and all these cool snacks. And I was like, yeah, like what's up with that? And then so he told me about the sports nutrition program that was existing inside the football complex, and I figured out the right person to contact, sent my resume and cover letter, and asked to become a student volunteer. And so was on that schedule about 6 hours a week, just helping out around the fueling station, making recovery shakes, stocking product, going to pick up milk, all the little stuff. And my boss gave me the project to make juice for the football team. It was something the head coach wanted, some fresh juice. And so with that schedule of 6 hours a week, I immediately thought, well, if they practice every day, they should have juice every day. So I started to come in the mornings before class and get that ready for the day so they'd be good to go. And then next thing I knew, a few months go by and she says, hey, uh, I'm gonna pimp you out this summer. And I said, all right, cool. And next thing I know, she sends me to St. Louis, and it was an unpaid internship with the St. Louis Rams, where they were doing some cooking, and I was working directly with the dietitian and just getting to help out, and super fast-paced environment. And from high school and college, still working in kitchens, it felt very similar to that pace of work. And never played sports growing up. I was in the marching band, and that environment being in athletics, like it felt just so cool. Everybody was there to get better. And I was a sucker for the words on the wall and all the slogans and, punch the day in the face type of stuff that was going on. So I just fell in love with the environment and I said, this is where I want to work. Um, got to apply for a seasonal job in St. Louis, led to a full-time job. Fast forward to 2018, and I started to work with the Utah Jazz as their performance chef. And in the 6 years since I've been here, me and one person who was working here at the time has grown, where in season I get to oversee a staff of 20. We've opened up a second kitchen, get to travel with the team to the road games and help out with nutrition support over there. So it's just kind of grown and blown up into a really awesome program where we have a lot of people doing great work, surrounded by an awesome team.
Awesome, man. That's fantastic. I know we talk all the time on our like check-in calls and stuff about like being able to juggle everything you're juggling, because you talked about like you're overseeing this whole team that's like having to work together and coordinate. So like what are the struggles with doing that, with having to like coordinate this team? What are the things you enjoy and what are like the most difficult parts of that job?
I realized as I got into more of a leadership role that those little things that, maybe I used to take for granted when all I had to do in a day was cut 15 cases of pineapple or something, kind of simple, like those days were over. And it's a lot more of the big picture, solving problems, managerial things. So whenever I get those opportunities to step back and do something like cut a pineapple, I'm very grateful and appreciate those times when I get to be really close to the food. And then I think that a challenge is I'm the type of person that I'm very empathetic and naturally I feel others. And, if I have a team member who might be struggling, maybe I'm automatically going to try to put that on myself and think
Mm.
that it's my problem to solve. Whereas something that I'm working on now in my reflection and meditation is, letting people know this is the vision, this is your responsibility for how I want you to execute, and not being hands off from there, but just being more clear with what the direction is. Where I think I've been a little bit maybe like laissez faire and letting people, you know, I value everyone's opinion so much and everybody has great ideas, but I think that it's finding that balance between giving your people their own creativeness, but then also making sure that they're sticking true to what the vision is. So I'm kind of in this spot where I'm trying to find myself in what all that is.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself a people pleaser?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do as well. And that's so I empathize with like with that struggle and with the things that you're talking about. Where it's like you said, you want to be hands-on and you want to do things a certain way. But you also want to give people the freedom to, like you said, be able to operate on their own and do the things that they need to do.
The
So
service industry is very centered around, can I get you anything? What would you like? And, it's all about pleasing and making people happy. And we're
yep.
trying to get people to organically say, wow. So, yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand. So I'm working on finding that balance.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you touched a little bit on kind of mentality, right? And like the things that you're doing to like kind of work on yourself from like a personal standpoint. And that's something we've talked about. I mean, it's been kind of a continued conversation between us talking about like mindset, mentality. So, what are the big things? What are your kind of keys to like your mindset and your mentality, or like what are the big things that you're kind of focusing on at the current moment?
Currently, I've noticed that if I don't practice regular gratitude, then naturally I'm going to slip into a more negative place. So that's something that, it was out of my radar for a while. And I kind of was like, what's going on? Like, you're not your normal self. Like, where is that spark at and that joy? And I brought it back to practicing, just very simple gratitude for all the awesome things that I have and the awesome people that are surrounding me. So that's one of my, like, I would say my core values in that.
Awesome. Anything else in terms of like the mindset or like mentality?
Well, when it comes to weightlifting, and if you can apply it to weightlifting, you can apply it to life. But I found a lot of awesome value in using visualization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, that's something again that we've talked about. I think that is such an important piece for weightlifting. It's pretty straightforward, right? Like you can go through mental reps and like practice in your mind and visualize yourself like doing and being successful. But how do you apply that to more like the professional setting or like kind of the personal setting? What does that look like for you?
Personally, I use a practice called the vivid vision, and it's a extremely detailed outline of how your program works, how you want things to go, who's doing what, just kind of every single minute detail of how things are working. And we just made the announcement with our ownership group that they've purchased a hockey team, NHL, and I've already started my draft of the Vivid Vision for how that fueling program is going to work out and all the new changes that are going to happen. So I think that, on that subject of just like visualization and how things are working, that it's like if you can't explain it to yourself, how can you
Hmm.
sell that to someone who's going to give you the approval?
For sure. Yeah. So it's like really it sounds like to me like just thinking through the whole process and kind of getting a like concrete vision of like this is how things are going to operate, this is how things are going to look, and then from there it gives you more direction in terms of being able to like execute on that. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yep, 100%.
Awesome. Heck yeah, dude. Awesome. Well, talk a little bit about you mentioned like traveling with the team. So one of the things that Anthony uh has to do, like a part of his job, is like traveling with the team when they've got games like in different cities, going with them, and basically traveling like all around the country and kind of all around the world. So what that does is that throws kind of a wrench in the training side of things, right? Like you're in a different city this day, you're going to be in a different city this day. And so talk about because you're one of the most consistent people I know in terms of training. Talk about how you've been able to be consistent as you're kind of traveling and like moving all over the place with this chaotic work schedule.
Yeah, man, different places, a different time zone. We joke that in basketball, you don't have really a Monday through Friday, but rather every day feels like a Wednesday where, we work on weekends and it's not, like I said, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but it's practice day, game day, travel day, recovery day. And however the schedule falls, we average throughout the season 3.2 games per week. So, you know, home, away, back to back, different cities, how all that plays out. But in terms of being consistent, it's something for me that I know, some people have a hard time getting to the gym, but it's something that I love. It's something that I'm hungry for. I search for it. I yearn for it. I seek it out. So ahead of time, you know, I know what cities I'm gonna go to. So I'll look around close to the hotel. Is there a Olympic lifting gym is the first thing I search for. In this journey, it's been, a little over 2.5 years now. I found that, you know, when I'm around other weightlifters, I lift better and
Hmm.
pick things up. And it's just like, dang, these people are doing stuff like me. These people are sharing the same passion that I am. So I will look for a gym that's close to the hotel. And, if there's not a lifting gym, then I'll look for a CrossFit box or a gym that has, kind of open gym type of hours. And then I know there's going to be a couple hours in my schedule where I'll have a break Sometimes it's later in the day, sometimes it's in the afternoon, but I'll just, make sure I take that time for me. And I usually try to walk if it's 2 or 3 miles or less. But if I have to, I'll get an Uber and just go to the gym. So it's been a great way. Like like I said, I take get a lot of joy out of it. So going and checking out these new places, and like my favorite ones is the like hardcore rap and rock, just kind of like there's chalk everywhere, like those
Yeah.
kind of like more hardcore type of places. So love just, all the environments and getting to see them and how it gives you just great perspective. And I know that Andrew, you've talked about like being able to like change your environment to help you make progress, where it's like choose a different bar or
Mhm.
use a different platform. And so for me, it's been just the ultimate like completely new stimulus to be able to surround myself in.
Yeah, it's almost like a beneficial thing in a way, right? Because there's the chaos of like, all right, you're traveling to all these places and you're having to coordinate, all right, in this city, I'm going to go to this place and having to schedule, at this time, I'm going to go train, which sounds like it sounds really hectic. You do a really good job of making it work. But the flip side of that, the positive side, is just like you said, you're in these. So there's been research that shows like uh athletes tend to perform better with fine motor task skills, which we would consider weightlifting to be one of those skills. They tend to like learn and perform better in like kind of like sensory rich environments or novel new environments. So the positive side that I see from like what you're doing in your schedule is that you're constantly in these new situations and like sensory rich environments. So really there could be like a net benefit, right? To like constantly being all over the place and constantly being like out of your comfort zone and in these new situations. So
Most of
you
the time too, just to expand on that, our games are at 7 o'clock at night, and most of the time we'll fly after that game. So you get into the next city, and by the time you get to the hotel and unload the truck, because we're unloading all of our equipment, you could get to your room at 3 or 4 a.m. And so, just it's I call it a fun challenge. I think that's the only way that you can look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you handle it super well. You're able to remain consistent with your training, which I really really respect. So talk about you mentioned like, some of your favorite places are like some of these the more hardcore places with like actual weightlifting gyms with people that are training weightlifting hard in the same way that you are.
Hmm.
Talk to me about some of the favorite places that you visited during your travels.
Well, what's cool too is like once you find one and then you establish connection, then
Hmm.
it's like you come back and you're almost like family with the people that are running the gym. So, for me, I think my favorite one that I've been to on the road has been Heavy Metal Barbell in North Carolina. It's been really awesome to drop in there, and got to meet Sean Rigsby a couple times, and he's just been always super welcoming and such a humble dude, and gave me some tips on my snatch and my jerk, so that was cool. um, and then recently got to check out Barbell Brigade in LA. That was a blast to go out there. um, they're always showing me mad love in Dallas when I go to D-Town CrossFit. Those guys are super awesome. And then I can't remember the spot that I went to in Toronto, but it was like in the basement of a CrossFit gym, and the coach there, like it was a Olympic gym in the basement of a CrossFit gym, and the coach there, he helped me like unlock my jerk, and I don't even remember what he said at this point, but I could barely jerk like 100 kilos. Like I was struggling to hit like 95, and then I don't know what he said, if it was about getting tall,
Hmm.
or whatever, but like that stuck with me. And now, I get hit 110, 115 like in training. So it's been cool to be able to build off of all those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool that like to get like a different perspective on training with being in like a different situation with a different coach, right? That's it's something that's like challenging both as like a coach and an athlete. When you've got like a remote athlete that's going to a different gym and lifting around other coaches, where like I know that, you know, if I'm lifting in a gym where there's athletes who have different coaches, I'll see stuff in their lifts and it'll be like, hey, I want to say something and like offer advice. But I
Mm,
also understand that their coach is probably working on a very specific thing. Right. And so even though I may see something that like could be addressed and could help improve their technique, I don't know the whole context for their situation. I know their coach probably has a plan for like specifically what they're working on, and they're probably triaging different things. And so it's a hard balance of like trying to offer suggestions and support without like stepping on the toes of like another coach. But it's always good, like I said, when you're in those different situations to like hear a different cue in like a different way, and sometimes that's it, right? And that just gives
mhm.
you like what you need to like make that connection. So talk about your jerk a little bit, because that's your jerk is it's one of the things that we struggled with quite a bit early on, and it's like all your lifts have improved drastically, but your jerk, I think, especially recently has taken a really good turn. So
I
talk
gotta,
about kind
yeah,
of the things you've been focusing on and what's kind of helped you get to the point where you're at.
I gotta say too, before we get there, JDI Barbell in New York, downtown,
Okay.
Ishmael and Tony, my guys over there. That was a great spot. That was my first time going there this year, and I can't wait to go back.
What about Be Somebody in Knoxville?
True. That wasn't an NBA city. I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah,
Uh,
fair enough. Fair
Knoxville,
enough.
Tennessee, but getting to go down to Wes's spot, that was great. We actually took my mom the last time, and she was sitting there. She brought her earplugs, and she was like, "Hey, lift that motherfucker." She was having a good old time, and
Yeah.
Wes was great. He's like, "Dude, bring your mom anytime."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, talking about the jerk, that one was one where, gosh, man, I would almost have nightmares about it because I was just like, how could I ever like I couldn't get it off my shoulders and just I was leaning on my toes, like timing was fucked up, dropping too fast, trying to press with my arms instead of my hips and my legs. And my cue that I use now is to just get tall before I press. Get as tall as I can. And so patience in the timing, letting that bar use its natural like bending and momentum to get to where it needs to be. And it's one of my favorites now. I'm just still dialing in that footwork, but
hmm
it's definitely something that I feel like with weightlifting, like when you stick with it, I mean, probably anything in life, you stick with it, you get rewarded.
Yep.
So going through those up times and down times, and still trying to come at it with the same intensity and hey, whatever I can get better on, just working for it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the things that when I work with athletes who are going through, they're having like difficulty with technique on like a particular lift. It's what I try to do for them is like set the expectation that, hey, it's probably going to take a while, right? It's probably not going to be something that we just like introduce a magical cue and it just like fixes it. And your jerk or your snatch or whatever is going to be perfect. It's probably something where you're going to just kind of have to focus on the same cue over and over again, or maybe we try different things, try different drills. But it's usually if you're struggling with something, you kind of want to set the expectation that, hey, it's going to take some time and some work and it will get better. Just like you said, if you put in the work, you will be rewarded. It just sometimes can be a frustratingly slow process because weightlifting is tough and the movements are very complex and very challenging. And it does take a lot of time to be able to see progress. So awesome, man. Well, let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about the nutrition side of things. So, um, with you and your work, so like fueling your athletes, the basketball players, to kind of
Hmm.
promote optimal performance. What does that look like in terms of like what are you doing for the guys, like practice days, game days? What does the nutrition side of things look like for you?
Yeah, there are so many different thought processes about what's best or what's right. But my thing is, what is the way that we can be consistent? So every single person is going to have their own routine, their own things that make them feel good. And, we're going to try to help them find their own rhythm and their own routine that they can stick with. We have an incredible performance dietitian on staff, Lisa Everhart. And so between her and myself, it's making sure these guys have what they need at the right time and then teaching them the whys behind it. So it's been so cool. We're going around on the road with the post game menu, and I've got one of these guys saying, all right, well, let me get this one for my carbs, let me get this one for my protein, and I'm gonna get my colors and my veggies with this choice right here. Just hearing him kind of like analyze the whys behind his choices and knowing what he needs after playing, you know, 35-minute plus like intense game of professional basketball. But with the incredible resources that we've been able to get and to provide with our team members, and just awesome support from management and ownership. We provide breakfast and lunch on practice days for our guys. Breakfast is all a la carte. Lunches we do buffets, and then on game days we're doing breakfast, lunch, a pregame meal, and a postgame meal, all for the athletes. Additionally, we have a tapa style restaurant that we prep for and we run, where our ownership will bring his guests in and they'll dine before and during the game. We do food for the families at that time as well in a separate room. And then afterwards, it's a kind of chill lounge that has snacks and drinks. And last but not least, food for the plane. So anytime that
Mhm.
we travel outside of Salt Lake City, we're dropping stuff off early at the catering kitchen. They load it onto the planes, and then they're heating up our food in the oven. So everything is, I say we try to cook like grandma, but with a performance twist. So I'm not going, you know, deep in the water 100% hippy dippy, but we're gonna, infuse our ground meats with ground up or small diced mushrooms to help with some of those macronutrients, help with some moisture, get that going. And then if we're gonna go, we already live at 4,000 feet, but let's say we're getting ready to go to Denver next week. How can we get these guys excited about some dietary nitrates to help with that blood flow and just kind of get them primed up? So we're having conversations like that behind the scenes all the time, but on the front side, it looks like just normal good food.
hmm That's awesome. That's one of the things you said that really that like resonates with me is that consistency thing, right? How do we get people to be consistent? Because when I work with athletes and when I try to set diet plans, I say, hey, this is like the most optimal dialed in approach that we could possibly use, right? And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got like just no plan whatsoever, like eating crap. Where do we fall in terms of that spectrum, right? Because we could have the best plan in terms of like the number of macros, when you're eating specific meals, the quality of food that you're eating. We could have the best plan in the world, but if you're not consistent with that plan, it doesn't matter, right? So where do we kind of meet you where you're at? Where do we create a plan that's going to allow you to be consistent? Because consistency is going to trump a perfect plan with inconsistent adherence to it, right? So that's a big thing for me is like really trying to find where is that consistency for people. And for you, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're doing a good job of like educating people on like why we're eating what we're eating, what they should be looking for, which I think is really cool because it kind of puts the power in their hands, right? To make good decisions about like what they're eating.
Yeah, and everyone comes in at a different level, depending their age or, programs that they've been with or who they've worked with in the past. So we do our best to meet them where they're at, and everyone's gonna have a different goal at a different time. So it's really cool with the size of our roster to be able to individualize and make recommendations for each person.
What do people think when they come on board? Because from what you've told me, like you the program that you guys are running is pretty heads above what some of these other teams are doing in terms of their like nutrition and stuff. So when guys are coming on board with you, are they like, what's the reaction? Are they surprised or shocked or like how do they respond to kind of the approach that you guys have?
Yeah, Andrew, it's from the top down, honestly, and it's our owner like takes pride in striving to make this the best hospitality team in the NBA. And
Hmm.
so it's not just food, but it's how we handle, family relations, like every little aspect of things that the players are involved in beyond basketball that happens like at an organization. The team really tries to do that at the highest level, and they put the resources behind it. So my favorite expressions are when players have been on multiple teams and they come in and they just they say wow, like I've never
Mm.
been cared for like this before. And we just try to put out good energy and show love and make it simple for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that makes, I'm sure that makes a huge difference in not only the like performance side of things, like the actual like nutrition itself, but just like making people feel like they're cared for, right?
Mhm.
And that they're cared about. I'm sure that has a huge impact on their well-being and their performance as well. So awesome, man. Well, uh, let me ask you this. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Let's start kind of talking professionally. So what are next steps for you in terms of like your trajectory of the profession and where do you kind of see yourself in the next 5 years?
Yeah, man. Trajectory of the profession. You know, I want to keep learning and keep expanding from all sides of nutrition, hospitality, culinary, and I want to elevate all of my team members and help them either get, director jobs, head jobs, like whatever they want to do. Um, that'll be the most fulfilling thing for me over the next 5 years is how can I challenge and push and just the same way that you and I have our coaching relationship, the people that are in my life and that I get to help impact, how can I get them to new heights?
Awesome. Awesome. So do you have like tangible goals or uh like specifics for like where you want to be, or is it more just of like that like kind of general um self-improvement and professional development?
Yeah, I definitely see a strong future in our ownership group is called Smith Entertainment Group. So um, just continuing to contribute and build for the group is where I see myself. And as long as I'm doing that, I'll be fulfilled and I'll be happy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great, man. Let's talk about weightlifting then, or let's say kind of athletics training in general. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, and what kind of direction do you want to take your training?
Yeah, man. I've actually got my numbers on the whiteboard written down for the qualifier that we've been talking about for this American Open, right?
Yes, sir. North American Open. Yeah.
Yeah. So Up on the board, I went a little bit over, so I'm shooting for over, but it says 223 for my total. 121 clean and jerk and 102 on the snatch. So I look at that every day for just like where I'm going next. And then um I don't like to, you know, put too hard of an expectation, like I have to snatch this amount of weight by this date. Um, but I think that for me, it's putting the more rigid expectations in I'm gonna show up for training in the best possible mindset that I can every day. I'm gonna take care of myself physically and mentally outside of training every day to put myself in a good place when I get there. So just continuing to, you know, I think I found a great process through a lot of trial and error that we've had and working together. And, I believe that if I can stick with that, like I know that I'm getting older, but I want to like crush some masters records like whenever that's time.
Let's
I
go.
haven't looked at those, but even my wife, she's like, "Hey, we're going to the Olympics," and some people might say it's silly or it won't happen, but I'm just committed to the process.
Yeah, hell yeah. So what this sounds like to me, and this is something that we've talked about and discussed, but thinking about process related goals, right? Instead of kind of like these long-term goals. I think it's important to have kind of a long-term vision and say, hey, this is where I want to be. But we've talked about kind of taking the focus off of that long-term vision and putting the focus more into the process, like you talked about. So, what can I do on a day-to-day basis? What are my goals for each training session for each week that are going to kind of set me up for success in the long term? Because I think you're right. When it comes to weightlifting, like it's such a crapshoot and it's such an up and down process that like if you set this timeline for like I'm gonna snatch, 205 in 2 weeks, and then I'm gonna snatch 210 in like 4 weeks or whatever, that it's impossible to predict that progression and that trajectory. So it's really hard to kind of set those specific goals. It's a lot easier and probably a lot better on like your mindset to be able to set process related goals. Like, hey, I'm going to show up. I'm going to focus on this technical cue. I'm going to give my best, excuse me, in training every session. And if you're doing that consistently over a long period, you're going to see that progress. There will be ups and downs, but in the long term, you will see that progression. So the long term goal is that North American Open Series, right? That's kind of the next step for you.
Hmm. Yep.
So where are we at in terms of numbers? I know recently we PR'd the snatch.
Yep. That just happened on Big Friday. That was really cool. That was a 91. So um yeah, it was pretty electric to hit that. And now it's just, being able to continuously hit that in training. I think that what you can't like predict when your body's gonna act up or, when an injury could happen, but knowing that that stuff isn't like it's gonna happen to everybody at some point. And so back to just that like process related goals, being able to get through that stuff. I jumped around though. My clean and jerk, um, the my best in competition is 110, and then we've hit 115 before in training. That's been several months though.
Yeah.
I know
But
that.
but you power cleaned 110, and I'm talking like a power. This
Oh
is
yeah,
like
yeah,
catching
yeah,
in like a quarter squat, like super high. Power cleaned 110 multiple times.
yeah. That was like a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
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 So we know that the power is there. Because if you're powering 110, like in reality, we should be cleaning, well over 120. So we know that the strength is there. Talk a little bit about, you talked about kind of ups and downs, and injury and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about, currently we're dealing with some stuff that's been a little bit of a roadblock in terms of your training. Talk about a little bit about that and kind of how you've handled that.
Mm, yeah, it's it's been ups and downs like from from the beginning. There was a long time where I feel like we were on this squat cycle and it was just going up and up and up. And I'm talking to my friends and I'm like, oh yeah, I hit a PR this week. And he's like, you PR every week. And so like we were just building and building, building and had some stuff going on with the lower back. And then I couldn't lift as much as I was, you know, especially like full depth squats. There was a point too where I couldn't even put I couldn't even put like empty barbell on my back, like, and I was getting sensations in the low back and down my leg. And so with that, I picked up a new hobby, running. So started to supplement in some running around the lifting. And back in November, December, I said, well, fuck it, I'm gonna sign up for a marathon. And I've actually been training for that along with the lifting. So it's pretty cool. I had somebody send me a DM on social media where I was, kind of posting about my training and stuff. And they say, you're one of the few people I know who can go run a half marathon and then snatch 91. So
Yep.
that was pretty cool. But we got the full marathon coming up in June. Um, and about 4 weeks ago now, with the advice of my wife, I saw a local PT just to kind of get some feedback. And you know, I had this leg issue where it's like I could not get into full depth without like a pretty significant sensation going down my leg. And she helped me in person with a few things and gave me some ideas of stuff to work on, a lot of hip mobility. And I've been being consistent with that. And it was, a week after starting that I PR'd the snatch at 90. And so, 2 weeks after that, like we just hit 91. So I think that it's just like financially, I have 3 or 4 different people that are involved in my financial life, like helping me with ideas and making plans. And I think
Mhm.
that as long as like everybody's working together, first thing I did was connect you and this girl that is helping me out. And so,
Yep.
everybody knows the plan, like we know what the goal is, we're working together for the same purpose. I think it's good to, you know, get different opinions, see what people think. Um, but I will say the takeaway from all that, uh, motion is lotion. Never
Mo-
stop moving.
Motion is lotion. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yep. Yeah, and I fully support and endorse that that collaborative 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 approach. Um a lot of the athletes I work with, such as yourself, well, all the athletes I work with are remote, except for a few. And so I'm always supportive of like if if there's something that's going on, to go seek out some additional help and get like a second opinion. Um, because yeah, especially when it comes to like back pain, like these things can be notoriously challenging to handle, right? And it has been like really a process trying to get through this. But what I've respected through the process is like your mindset and your ability to stay positive and to control what you can control, right? And not get super bummed out about it because it's frustrating as fuck when
Hmm.
you can't do what your body can't do what you want it to do, right? I've experienced that. I've been through my own like ups and downs with like injuries. And so I know how demoralizing it can be. And I've really respected your ability to maintain that positive mindset and stay consistent with the process. So,
It's just like you said, you can't, body won't let you do what you want it to do. But also it won't let you do what you know it can do. And
mhm.
you're just like, God, like I have this.
Yep,
Yeah, no, but just gotta stick with it because slow motion is better than no motion. So
exactly.
just gotta keep it rolling.
And you're man, I've told you that like this So we've been kind of dealing with this back thing for a little bit. And to me, there's almost a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I know it's been a challenge and it's been tough, but because of it, we've had to keep training a little bit lighter. And your technique has improved like drastically, like I talked
Mm.
about. So it to me, it's almost a little bit of a blessing in disguise where we've been able to keep things lighter, really dial in a lot of the technique stuff, and now we're starting to see it pay off. Now we're starting to see those snatches really starting to move, and that like that 200 that we hit, that 91 kilos, was like a freaking easy snatch. Like there's a lot more in the tank there. So it's cool to see that like, there's been progress that has been made still, even though it doesn't feel like it kind of at the time. I'm really excited to see here, like in the next few weeks and months, how things start to progress.
I remember that, we hadn't really touched any significant weight for several months. And then, one day we're going through it and kind of like, damn, like that was a power at 90%. Like, so
Hmm.
uh one of my colleagues, he does a lot of bodybuilding type work, and I'd share about my lifting journey and share some of my videos and stuff. And he said, "Oh, so you're a technician?" That
Yes.
was the first time I showed him some clean work, and you
Yep.
know, so yeah, try to be a
Yeah,
technician.
that's what I call you, man. I mean, you've really turned into a technician. And like one of the biggest compliments I give people when they start when they're relatively new to weightlifting and they've been in it a few months, I tell them, "Hey, you're starting to look like a weightlifter, right?" Because there you can tell the difference between someone that's like new and is like a little uncoordinated. The lifts don't quite look as snappy and as smooth, and then you can tell someone that's been in it a while, right? They've trained, and it starts to look like a more consistent, smooth motor pattern. And that's 100% where you're at. Like when I watch your lifts now, it's like, damn, this guy's a weightlifter. So,
It's a really good feeling, going into, like we talked about, these gyms on the road and stuff, and where they don't know you. And I can imagine sometimes where it's like, oh, like we're letting a person drop in, like are they gonna be sloppy? Are they gonna, you
hmm.
know, make it a mess, like do whatever? But then you start your process and you start doing your warm-ups and going through it, and it's like, okay, he's cool. Like he
He's
knows
good.
what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to worry about him. We want him to come back versus other ones where it's like,
Yeah. Yep.
like just want to leave the spaces always better than I found them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome, man. Well, we're running down to the end of time here. So let's go ahead and finish up with some rapid fire questions. So I'll just shoot off some questions. You give me kind of your quick response or first thing that comes to mind. Cool?
Okay.
Okay. Who's your weightlifting crush? We won't tell Fleet. Or it can be Fleet. She's a weightlifter.
I think Fleet is a good one, man. Have you ever seen her deadlift?
Yeah.
Fleet is my wife.
She's strong. She's
Yes.
strong, strong as fuck. So, okay, I'll accept that. I'll accept
Yeah.
that. Which is tougher, bulk or cut?
Cut. Oh
Why?
man, that's the bulk is tough too, because like the boobs start coming in a little bit, and you kind of start to feel self-conscious about yourself. Um, but I would say that I'm definitely having more fun, and I'm in a bulk right now for anybody who's wondering. But when I started getting really serious with this weightlifting stuff, I was a like really big kid in middle school, and got like teased and bullied and stuff. And so like I had like body image stuff my whole kind of life after that. But when I got into the weightlifting and made it about that and not about like aesthetics, I wasn't focused on that anymore. I got a ton of just like comfort and
Hmm.
like feel great about myself, where things where it's like you might focus on something in the mirror before, like I'm happy about who I am and what I can do. So it's been a cool little like mindset attitude shift with that.
I love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's something that I see. It tends to be more in women, but obviously it happens to guys too. where like people are so focused on like the aesthetics and like they need to look a certain way, and so maybe they like restrict themselves from eating because they think they need to stay lean. And when you make that mindset shift to, hey, I'm going to focus on performance and I'm going to focus on fueling myself to promote performance in the
Hmm.
gym, right? When you make that mindset shift, like honestly, the body composition, the aesthetics kind of tend to fall into place, right? And people will actually like gain weight that are afraid of gaining weight, but it'll be muscle and they'll look a lot better. They'll look a lot
Hmm.
more jacked and toned. And so, yeah, that's a big kind of mindset that I've seen, and I think that's really cool that you're able to kind of make that shift more towards, hey, I'm going to focus on performance. I'm going to focus on fueling myself for performance. All right, coolest person you've ever met.
Coolest person I've ever met.
Because you met a lot of cool people with your job.
Met a lot of cool people. Yeah, we get a good bit of like, VIP and celebrity caliber people that come through. Just either, friends of the athletes or friends of our owner, he's super plugged in. And um the most recent one that comes to mind, Travis Scott was in our lounge and in our practice facility, and he was one of the nicest dudes that I met. He
Hmm.
was super cool, super grateful. Um, I think that, who's the coolest person I've met with, like I would need to hang out around them for a while, right?
Mm.
Um, I'm having a tough one thinking about who that could be, but just like surrounding myself with good people. You can usually tell pretty quick the energy someone gives off.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll say Travis Scott, I guess, is your answer then, huh?
He was awesome.
Okay, cool. What's the best dish you've ever made?
Best dish that I ever made. I think that my Alfredo sauce is undefeated.
Undefeated. Awesome. Well, who is your favorite weightlifter
My
currently or
favorite
ever? Yeah.
weightlifter.
Favorite person to watch, follow?
All right, well, this goes back to the cool question now that I'm thinking about it, but I've loved getting to know Wes Kitts, and I wouldn't even really say that like I know him, but I've gotten to be around him a couple times and have some conversations and just, see him in action. So he's going to be my favorite weightlifter and also probably the coolest person that I've met.
Let's go. I'm gonna have to tag him in
Yeah.
this. All right. Last one. Your favorite weightlifting moment in your career. This could be competition, training, anything. What's the best moment for you?
It was my second time competing. It was here at the Utah Open in 2023, and um, it was the first time I had ever jerked 110 kilos. Where I think we had done 105 definitely in training,
Mhm.
maybe 108, I don't know, but like we talked about, like the clean's there. The clean's always been there for me. Um, but clean the weight and then it was like, all right, like let's do it, and did the jerk and it was smooth. And I remember when I put the weight up that I couldn't believe that I had done it, and time kind of froze and I'm just holding it up there like still in my split position, and I was like, oh shit, like I need to like stand up straight. But yeah, so I paused for a couple of seconds. So I couldn't believe that I had done it, and so that was a really cool moment for me.
Heck yeah, dude. Love that. And that was a great jerk, by the way. That was a fantastic jerk. It's always cool to see in competition how just being in that environment raises your capabilities, right? I tell people like all the time when they're starting to prepare for competition, lifts are feeling heavy or things are feeling off. There's a few reasons for that, but I always tell them like, hey, it's going to be there. Like, don't worry. When you're in that competition setting, you've got that adrenaline, you got the people watching, like the lifts are going to be there. So it was really cool that you're able to do that and kind of experience that.
I was listening to Tupac that day.
Oh yeah. That's the secret, huh? Awesome, man. Well, that's all I got. Thank you, Anthony, so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Anyone that's watching, thanks for watching. Any kind of wrap up comments?
I think just stick with it. Anything in life, like when you go through hard times, they're gonna come. I think that when you have resilience and stick to itness, the grit to push through, that you're gonna see good things on the other side. The grass is not always greener than, if you think, oh, I'm just gonna go do this instead. But stick with the hard things is what I gotta say.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thanks, Anthony. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll have to do this again sometime soon.
All right, love you, Andrew.
All right. Love you, bro.
Okay, see ya.